Judge Wise, you're not being honest with us, are you?
That is incorrect.
Well, we all may be poorer under President Biden, but we're not stupid. We have a long list of your articles and your opinions and your...
Today's hearing showed exactly what many critics say is wrong with the radical left's influence over America's courts. And one senator wasn't afraid to say it out loud. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana walked into that room prepared, with articles, records, and hard evidence. And during his questioning, he challenged Judge Weiser directly, accusing him of acting less like a neutral judge and more like an ideological activist trying to hide behind the robe of the judiciary.
On March 8, 2017, you wrote an article for Time magazine while you were a sitting judge. It's entitled, Judge, Gender Laws Are at Odds with Science. I'm going to quote your words. When legislators blur the lines of church and state and enact laws that permit or prohibit conduct based on biological gender as only male or female, they place an impossible burden on the judiciary. End quote. Did I read that accurately?
I do not know because I don't have the article in front of me.
Well, I do. You also said in that article, quote, your words, not mine, sex has countless natural permutations, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe that is consistent with medical science and under the Daubert standard, the science that comes in as expert testimony in trials.
On October 13, 2020, while you were serving as a state judge, you wrote an article for The Atlantic entitled, quote, your words, not mine, America's judiciary doesn't look like America. And you criticized this committee and President Trump for his judicial nominees. You said, quote, these are your words, not mine. The judiciary crafted over the past 4 years does not look like America. Not one of these judges is black, and more than 90% were raised or currently identify as Christians. I don't know how you knew that. And then you say, quote, your words, not mine. Identity is the lens that filters everything and everyone we encounter, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Again, I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
I do. I got it right here. You wrote another article on July 31, 2020 for the San Francisco Daily Journal, in which you advocate for the right of sitting judges to be able to go to protests, didn't you?
That is incorrect.
No, it's not. I'm looking at it right here. This is what you say. No judge should be ethical. Your words, not mine. You just said you didn't say them. You turned these articles over. No judge should be ethically constrained from speaking or taking action that reinforces that constitutional and moral imperative. May judges participate in demonstrations that denounce racism, support equal justice, and reinforce our constitutional rights to free speech and peaceable assembly? Yes. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know because I don't have the article in front of me.
If you're a federal judge, are you going to go to protests?
I would like to answer the substance of the underlying question that was asked.
I'd like you to answer my question. I've only got another minute or so. If you're a federal, let me put it another way. Have you ever gone to a protest, a public protest, while you're a sitting judge?
Senator Kennedy, the article that you are referring to
Have you ever
was
gone to a
written-
protest while you're a sitting judge?
I do not believe that I have ever attended a protest as a sitting judge, or perhaps ever in my life.
And you talk about Girls Inc. You say you've never heard of them. You were on the, or you don't know that much about them. You were on the board from 2014 to 2024. You're still on their board, aren't you?
I'm not. My term expired this last month.
And you've given them over $50,000, haven't you?
I do not believe that is correct.
That's what your report says. And this is the same Girls Inc. that says, quote, on its website, here's how they define girls. Quote, girls refers to gender-expansive youth, cis girls, trans girls, non-binary youth, gender and non-conforming youth, genderqueer youth, and any girl-identified youth. Did I read that correctly?
I don't know. I've never heard of that policy or that definition
You
from
never heard
Girls
of it.
Inc.
Listen, in spite of your, can I just have 30 more seconds? In spite of your strongly held political beliefs, and we've got all of them, all your articles, they're as long as King Kong's are you telling us today, do you believe that you will not allow your strongly held political beliefs to influence your judicial opinions? Do you believe that?
The best evidence of the type of federal judge I will be,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
type of
Do you
judge,
believe that? Do you believe that?
is the type of judge I have been for 10 years, who is one who always puts the law above my personal.
Do you also believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in the Tooth Fairy?
Your time has expired, Senator.
Do you believe Jimmy Hoffa died of natural causes?
Senator Hirono.
Let's break it down. Senator Kennedy came into that hearing fully prepared. He pulled out a 2017 Time magazine article written by Judge Weiser himself, an article arguing that recognizing only male and female genders places a burden on the judiciary. This wasn't a tweet. It wasn't a rumor. These were his own published words. So Kennedy asked him about it. Judge Weiser responded, I can't confirm that without seeing the article. Think about that for a moment. Sir, you wrote it. You published it. And now you're sitting before the United States Senate, seeking a lifetime appointment to the federal bench, and suddenly you can't remember your own article. That's not humility. That's evasion. And the American people can see straight through it. Then Kennedy brought up a second article, this one from The Atlantic in 2020. In that piece, Weiser criticized President Trump's judicial nominees, arguing that the judiciary does not reflect America and stating that identity is the lens through which everything is filtered. Pause and think about that. This is a man who wants to serve as a federal judge saying publicly that identity is the lens through which he views the world. Not the Constitution. Not the law. Not the facts of a case. Identity, that is the very definition critics point to when they talk about judicial activism. Legislating from the bench. And that concerns many Americans, regardless of political affiliation. But Kennedy wasn't done. He then referenced a third article from the San Francisco Daily Journal, where Weiser argued that sitting judges should be allowed to attend political protests. When confronted with that statement, Weiser looked Kennedy in the eye and said, that is incorrect. So Kennedy did something simple. He read the exact quote from the article out loud, right there in the hearing room, for everyone watching across the country. Then he asked a straightforward yes or no question. Have you ever attended a protest while serving as a judge? Weiser responded, I do not believe that I have. I do not believe. That's not a clear answer. It sounds like a dodge. When someone has nothing to hide, they typically answer plainly. But when the response becomes uncertain or carefully worded, people begin to ask questions, and the scrutiny didn't stop there. Kennedy also brought up Weiser's decade-long connection to Girls Incorporated, an organization that supports gender-inclusive definitions of girls, including individuals who identify as gender-expansive, non-binary, genderqueer, or self-identified. According to Kennedy, Weiser served on the organization's board for 10 years and donated more than $50,000 to it. Yet during the hearing, he stated he was unfamiliar with certain policy positions associated with the group that raised eyebrows. Finally, Kennedy asked what many considered the most important question of the hearing: will your political beliefs influence your judicial opinions? Weiser responded with a carefully worded statement pointing to his decade-long judicial record. Kennedy's reply was sharp. He compared the situation to asking people to believe in things like Bigfoot or the Tooth Fairy, suggesting that Americans might find it difficult to accept that someone who has written political articles, served on activist boards, and spoken openly about identity as a worldview could suddenly become entirely neutral once appointed to the bench. Whether people agree with Kennedy or not, one thing is certain: he came prepared. He asked direct questions, and he pressed for answers. Now the bigger question remains: will the rest of the Senate examine the nominee just as closely? Because a lifetime seat on the federal bench isn't just another political prize. It's a position of immense responsibility and public trust, one that requires confidence from the American people, and the debate over whether Judge Weiser deserves that trust is far from over. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so more people can hear the discussion.